What's up YouTube? Capital G here talking about the state of Yu-Gi-Oh! And mainly just giving my thoughts and opinions on the is Yu-Gi-Oh! Dying topic, because last week it was kind of like a hot button topic. A lot of people were saying, you know, rip Yu-Gi-Oh! Etc. etc. I think a lot of it had to do with the backlash from Dueling Network being shut down and then Yugioh Pro having them being forced to essentially take the download link off of their website, despite the fact that that didn't do anything. I've said numerous times, I even posted a video on how you can still get Yugioh Pro from like numerous other websites and how the program has updated even today. So it's really not that big of an issue. But anyways, I just want to take this, I just want to look at this from strictly a numbers perspective, because I saw some YouTubers like saying things last week and I felt like people were like misinformed. You had some YouTubers who hadn't played the game in like a year and a half giving their thoughts and views like, oh, this is why the game died. I'm like, what? And then you had others who were just like spouting nonsense like, oh, yep, see, rip Yugioh Pro, it's never going to update again. And lo and behold, 2 days later it updates and it's like, well, what do you have to say about that? Oh, I'm just going to ignore that because I've already got my views. But anyways, not gonna be talking about that. Just mainly just going to be talking about the issue at hand. Okay, so for starters, you guys know last week, or actually, yeah, about last week, I think Saturday, I posted a video saying Yu-Gi-Oh! Not dead, question mark, you know what I mean? How's this possible? And it was mainly based on the fact that the North American WCQ attendance was up previously. We actually went up 10% from the year before. Now, some people were trying to argue that that happened because it was too late after DN got shut down for people to cancel their flights or their train tickets or their, you know, unbook their hotels or whatever. That argument doesn't make any fucking sense. That argument would make sense if everybody from last year's Nationals said, all right, we're all coming back, and even though DN's down, we're gonna quit. We're just gonna come back because it's too late. We already invested our money. But where do you explain the other 10% of people who just like, where do you explain the other 200 people who were just like, we're coming too? Like, that literally makes, that only explains it if attendance stays the same. It doesn't explain it if attendance goes up 10%. So that doesn't make sense at all. And now it seems like we just got more evidence. And actually, before I go on to the new evidence, so the attendance wasn't just the best in the last 5 years, or it wasn't just the best out of the last 5 nationals. What I actually learned was the WCQ for North America this year was actually the highest nationals ever that we've had. And that's kind of crazy because I think they've been doing NA WCQs, or they've been doing at least American WCQs since like 2004. So for us to break a record for something that's been happening for 12 years, pretty damn impressive, like especially when the game is supposed to be, and I'm putting my quotes in the air, dying. All right, next up we have the European WCQs. This happened over the weekend, and to my surprise, this was actually the biggest European championship ever. They got over 1,400 players. You guys can't hear him, but you guys can read the caption right here. It's what's it called? All right, let me run it. For for the largest European championship of all time. There you go. If I turned the volume up, it would be like you guys wouldn't hear it because you'd still be hearing the audio from my microphone. You wouldn't be hearing the audio from my computer speakers anyways. But yeah, watch this video when he does the venue tour. But they got over 1,400 players at the European Nationals. It's not going to be as big as North America, but it's still pretty damn big. So basically, in back-to-back weeks, we've broken the attendance for Yu-Gi-Oh! Nationals, which is pretty damn astonishing. But then I started thinking, okay, what if these are just flukes? Because anybody can say, oh, Cap, well, it's just a fluke. And I mean, honestly, I don't really have any analytical data to prove that it isn't a fluke. I mean, anything couldn't just be a fluke. It is a very small sample size. But like, I kind of went back and I started looking at some of the YCS numbers, and our numbers really aren't that bad. Like, I'm thinking, oh man, you know, the game is dying. Oh my God, we must have like, every tournament must be like 300 people. We must be in the actual grave. But okay, like throw out some of these like Guatemala, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna base our YCS numbers off of like YCS Guatemala. These are like South American events. You can just throw those out. Mainly just like the European and North American events. Now, these aren't from 2016. These are from 2015, but I've got like a couple from 2016 outside of just the nationals that just happened, which is, you know, obvious evidence. So let's see. We got YCS Chicago from last year. This was April, 1,300 players. Anything over 1,300, I think, is like a riveting success. Let's see. We've got YCS Bochum, that has to be in Europe. I don't know what country. That is 1,100 players. We have YCS Columbus. That one was almost fucking 1,800 players. That was really big. We have YCS Toronto. That was only 700. That one was a bomb. We followed that up with YCS Romania. That one was 1,100 players. Let's see, we have YCS Dallas. That one was 1,300. That was the random one where an Infernoid somehow went undefeated and won. I still don't understand that. We had YCS San Jose. This was at the Clash of Rebellions that just released, and that one had just about 1,000. So our numbers are pretty good. We have a lot of events that are over 1,000 players, and I looked at YCS Prague this year. This was the YCS Chet. You guys know about this one. And his I'm gonna double summon every single turn, basically. I'm gonna put pendulums in the graveyard and all types of things. It says there are a whopping 978 players in attendance here at YCS Prague, with some late registrations still coming. So even an event from this year, this was right after the adjusted list. This was like 5 months ago. This event basically had 1,000. Well, let's just roll it up to 1,000 because it said that there were more people registering. So let's assume that 22 more people registered. Let's roll that up to 1,000. So if we're still getting a lot of events of over 1,000 people like this year, and our nationals this year are breaking records, how exactly is that? Like, how is that indicative of a game that's dying? To me, you can't even make that argument. Maybe you can make the argument that the game is plateaued, where it can't really get any bigger, or the game can't grow. The game is kind of like, you know, at a neutral position. That I would probably agree with. But the thing about it is, I think that if Yu-Gi-Oh's next mechanic, you know, after Arc V, I think that if it's really good and they kind of simplify it, I think Yu-Gi-Oh can easily go right back to the 5Ds days, you know, and I use that as an example because it seems like during the 5Ds and 0 days, everybody and their mama was playing the game. And, you know, that was when we had the biggest card game tournament ever. I think during the 5D days or 5Ds days, we hit like almost 4,500 players. Now, the thing about this is, and I'm going to make another point about, you know, people say, well, everybody I know quits the game and we don't have any locals in it. I'll make a point about that in a second. But to put it in the context, those numbers of our YCSs being, you know, a lot of them being over 1,000 players, our nationals being, you know, 2,300 players, 1,400 players for Euros. So this was an article about Pokemon, right? The Pokemon trading card game. And I don't ever hear anyone saying, oh my God, Pokemon trading card game's dead. So this was an article posted on IGN. You know, IGN is pretty reputable. And this was posted July 5th. So, I mean, basically 2 weeks ago. It says Pokemon breaks record with its biggest tournament ever. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but Pokemon, didn't it just celebrate like its 20th birthday, or isn't that happening? Isn't that this year? Pokemon's fucking old as hell. Like, literally, the Pokemon TCG was out when I was a kid. That's how old this damn thing is. And it says that but it was the TCG Masters Division that broke the record with a staggering 1,100 players. So we have YCSs that are bigger than this, like just recently. And our North American Nationals, which is what's essentially, this was the Pokemon version of our North American Nationals that happened last week, was over double this. Our European Nationals that happened over this weekend was 300 players more than this. So if our events are double the size of Pokemon events, why are people saying that Yu-Gi-Oh's dying? Why isn't everybody saying Pokemon's dying? Our events are basically the same event is double their size. So I'm really not getting that. And I even looked at Magic. And the reason I'm bringing up Magic and Pokemon is because, quite frankly, those are the only card games that I've ever considered to be our rivals. Even other games like World of Warcraft and Versus, like, where the fuck are they? Like, they died. I mean, I know Hearthstone's online or whatever, but other card games like Cardfight Vanguard, Forces, like, they're not our rivals. Like, they're not even on our level. I've only considered Magic and Pokemon to be our contemporaries. So I looked at Magic, and I think this was the Pittsburgh Grand Prix. As far as I can tell with Magic, the Grand Prix is essentially their version of a Shonen Jump or a YCS or whatever. And this one had, I believe it was 1,300 players. So if we're getting 1,000 players out of YCS and Magic is getting 13, I'd say that's, I mean, we're behind, obviously, but it's pretty comparable. I mean, it's respectable. But the thing about it is, our tournaments should never be as big as Magic. Like, our tournaments are just not going to be as big as Magic. Even though we had the biggest tournament ever, and we've had tournaments that have been bigger than some of their tournaments, I would say on average, our tournament shouldn't be as big as Magic because they fucking give out cash prizes. I mean, you look at the cash prizes that they give. This guy got first at this tournament Even though Magic, I think, is, from what I can tell, it's like $70 to enter or 60 if you do early registration. So it's 3 times more expensive to enter, but this dude won $10,000 for first place. $5,000 for second place. Like, they gave away almost $25,000 to top 8. And you look at this one from Charlotte. I just, searched this one because I live in North Carolina. This one got 2,400 players. Those are great numbers, by the way. But again, like, they give out hard cash prizes. 28,000, probably somewhere around that. I didn't do the math on this one. It probably isn't that much different. Actually, it should only be 200 more, so what, 26,000? They give away hard fucking cash prizes for Magic. Even in Pokemon, they gave away to this guy who won it. I think his name is Nick Robinson. This dude won $10,000, and their nationals is still only half the size of Yu-Gi-Oh's. So it's like, I'm looking at this just from a attendance standpoint of the big events, and I'm seeing that Yu-Gi-Oh is bigger than Pokemon, but smaller than Magic. But obviously, we should be bigger than Magic, or we should be smaller than Magic, because I mean, come on, their prize support is 50 billion times better than Yu-Gi-Oh. But the thing about it is, Yu-Gi-Oh has other revenue streams, and that's why one of the reasons why I don't think that Yu-Gi-Oh is 100% based on its tournament attendance, because Yu-Gi-Oh has an anime that's syndicated for Nickelodeon right now, and I don't even know about like reruns. Maybe they run that through other like networks and stuff like that, with like Arc V and running that on like what's that damn anime anime site. Oh man, I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. But you guys probably Funimation or no, that Crunchyroll. There you go. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh has other revenue streams of like the toys and the manga and the anime and syndication and products and video games and stuff like that that Magic the Gathering doesn't have. So who knows how Yu-Gi-Oh is making this up in other ways, let alone that we don't ever know the sales of booster sets. But then even when you think about booster sets, I just tried to think about booster sets that have come out this year, and I just tried to think about public opinion on them. You know what I mean? Did the public think that these were great sets? This is some, is this something that you think a lot of people bought? And for the most part, I would say the answer is yes. You look at Bosch and how amazing that set was. Maybe not all the comments were super good, but like at the top end, like Bosch had so many fucking amazing cards. There's a reason that when the set came out, it had like three $60 cards, and Cyber Infinity was like $60 for a little bit. Solemn was like $60. Pendulum Sorcerer was like $60. You look at the Twin Twisters and the Neptibus and the Monkey Board and the Pendulum Sorcerer and the Cosmojo and the Tin Can, like all of those like completely meta changing cards. You look at like the Infinite Gold, and you just look at how that made Cosmo and Burning Abyss affordable. It took cards like Dante and Dark Destroyer and gave them to the masses, and how prominent those decks are in the meta. So clearly you would say that that was a success. You look at the Emperor of Structure, or I said it twice, Emperor of Darkness structure deck. I'm reshooting this video because the first time it was 18 minutes, but you look at that structure deck and how big of a success that has been, and I'm like, pretty much everything that they've released this year, including Wing Raiders, has been largely successful. The only one that would kind of be up for debate would be so far Shining Victories. I mean, that's literally a love it or hate it set. If you don't run Blue Eyes, you literally might hate that, with that being more of a like fan set for, like nostalgia purposes and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. I'm looking at the numbers. The numbers seem good. I'm looking at the booster packs. The booster packs seem good. I'm looking at our nationals. We got record numbers, and none of that is indicative of a game that's dying. And then the last argument I'll just say, because I don't know how long I've been running, is for everybody who says, oh my God, Cap, my locals is closed and everybody I know who started when I played during the 5Ds era, they all quit. That is a valid argument. The problem is no one ever takes into consideration how many, little 6 and 7 year olds see, Yuya versus Yuzu on episode 2 or whatever, and think, oh my God, what is this show? I want to play this. And then they go out and they get their mamas to buy them, a couple of structure decks. They play the game for a couple years, get bored, and then quit and move on to something else. And then some 6-year-olds replace them. You know what I mean? Like, for every person that quits, I've never heard anyone once bring up the amount of people who are joining the game. And granted, the amount of people who are joining the game are probably not at your age range if you're like 18 to 25, or even if you're my old age at like 30. But you never look at, you never probably don't notice the little kids who probably start playing. So even in the end, guys, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh's fine. And even if Yu-Gi-Oh was on its deathbed, in my opinion, I think that Konami could probably easily fix it. I don't think that there's really natural fatigue for these card games. You look at Pokemon and Magic. I mean, these games are fucking 20 plus years old. I think Konami could do things like unbanning certain cards like Stratos that would bring, you know, positive buzz around the game. And then I think that there could also be some serious desperation pools. Like the biggest one and one of the most obvious ones that they could just go to is just give away cash prizes. I mean, yeah, the guy who made Yu-Gi-Oh probably doesn't want it, but if your game dies, you won't really have a game to, you know, complain about anyway. So they could easily do something like that. And I mean, that would create super hype around Yu-Gi-Oh. I think like our tournaments would be as big as Magic if we started doing cash prizes. And I look at all three of these games, and I think all three of these games are in a good state, or at least not gonna die anytime soon. You know what I mean? They've been around 20 years plus, not Yu-Gi-Oh, but the other two games. And you know, Pokemon, their attendance isn't as big as Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic on average, but the Pokemon brand pretty much fucking prints money for Nintendo. You know, it's one of the most profitable things that they own. Look at Pokemon Go. It's the #1 app in the world. You look at Magic, and their tournaments on average are bigger than Yu-Gi-Oh's and much bigger than Pokemon because they give away cash prizes, and it's the oldest of the game. And you know, Yu-Gi-Oh's probably somewhere in the middle. You know, our tournaments are decent sizes, not as big as Magic's on average, but we also have other ways of funneling money into, you know, the Yu-Gi-Oh brand, most notably like the anime and the manga. You know, Nintendo they're not airing the anime for fucking free. Like, they have to pay NAS or whoever the hell owns the rights to Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, they have to pay them to run the anime. So, you know what I mean? That money goes into paying the people who work for Yu-Gi-Oh and keeping the game alive, making sure like the R&D department comes up with more shitty broken cards a year from now. So I just wanted to get my opinion out there. Thank you guys for watching as always.